In this video, we'll be taking a look at 4 college basketball games happening on March 28, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 8 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 4 college basketball games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start. If you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Ole Miss versus Michigan State. The 6-seed Ole Miss Rebels are gearing up to take on the 2-seed Michigan State Spartans in what promises to be a thrilling Sweet 16 showdown in the South region. The game is set for Friday night, and both teams will be looking to extend their tournament runs with a spot in the Elite Eight on the line. Ole Miss put on a dominant performance in the second round, taking down the 3-seed Iowa State Cyclones by a score of 91-78. The Rebels entered that matchup as 5.5-point underdogs, but defied expectations with an emphatic win. On the other side, Michigan State faced off against 10-seed New Mexico and managed to pull out a 71-63 victory. It wasn't the easiest win for the Spartans, but they did just enough to cover the spread as 6.5-point favorites. This Friday night in Atlanta, head coach Chris Beard and his Ole Miss Rebels will be going head-to-head with the legendary Tom Izzo and his Michigan State Spartans. It's a matchup that has all the makings of a classic, with both teams bringing different strengths to the table. Beard deserves a ton of credit for the job he's done in just his second year leading Ole Miss. Last season, this team wasn't even part of the NCAA tournament conversation. Fast forward a year, and they're just one win away from an Elite Eight appearance. The Rebels entered March Madness as a number 6 seed, standing out as one of 14 teams representing the SEC in the Big Dance. Out of those 14, 7 squads have fought their way into the Sweet 16, showcasing just how tough this conference has been all season long. That level of competition helped Ole Miss prepare for the intensity of the tournament, and it showed in their first 2 matchups. In the round of 64, they built a commanding 22-point lead over North Carolina before sealing the victory. They followed that up with an even more impressive showing against Iowa State, leading by as much as 26 points before closing out the win. For Michigan State, the road to the Sweet 16 hasn't been as smooth. The Spartans cruised past Bryant in the first round with a 25-point blowout, but they ran into trouble in the round of 32. Against New Mexico, they found themselves trailing for the entire first half. However, Izzo made the necessary adjustments at halftime, and his team clawed their way back in the second half to secure an 8-point victory. Now, they're looking to keep their momentum going against an Ole Miss squad that has been firing on all cylinders. This matchup features 2 accomplished head coaches, but if I had to lean toward one side, I'd give the edge to the Rebels. Ole Miss has looked dominant in both of its tournament games, and when you compare these teams on paper, they aren't all that different. The Rebels rank 24th in adjusted offensive efficiency, 21st in adjusted defensive efficiency, 131st in tempo, and 8th in strength of schedule. The Spartans, meanwhile, sit at 25th offensively, 5th defensively, 170th in tempo, and 26th in strength of schedule. There's not a huge gap between them, but one key difference is experience. Ole Miss has a veteran starting lineup, featuring 4 seniors and a junior, while Michigan State relies on 2 freshmen, Jace Richardson and Jeremy Fears Jr., in critical roles. That experience, along with the Rebels' ability to create turnovers and protect the ball on offense, should help them keep this game close. As our first pick for this matchup, the Ole Miss Rebels to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. This Sweet 16 clash will also be a battle between 2 of the nation's top defensive teams. Both squads are more well known for their ability to shut down opponents rather than light up the scoreboard, and Michigan State in particular has been elite on that end of the floor. The Spartans finished the season ranked 5th in defensive efficiency, thanks in large part to their physical style of play. Izzo has been constantly rotating fresh bodies into the lineup, ensuring that his defenders stay energized and don't wear down over the course of the game. Ole Miss, on the other hand, isn't far behind. The Rebels are filled with athletic defenders who can guard multiple positions, and they rank 21st in defensive efficiency. Another factor to consider is the pace of play. Neither team likes to push the tempo, with both ranking outside the top 125 in terms of possessions per game. That means we're looking at a slow, methodical game where both squads try to grind out points rather than get into a track meet. The Spartans have seen the under hit in 4 of their last 5 games, and this one is shaping up to be another low-scoring affair. Kentucky versus Tennessee. The NCAA tournament rolls on with a high-stakes Sweet 16 showdown featuring 2 powerhouse programs from the Southeastern Conference. The 3rd-seeded Kentucky Wildcats are set to clash with the 2nd-seeded Tennessee Volunteers in the Midwest region on Friday night in Indianapolis. This matchup, taking place at Lucas Oil Stadium, is the latest chapter in a historic rivalry that has spanned decades. With both teams eyeing a coveted spot in the Elite Eight, the intensity will be at an all-time high. Kentucky punched their ticket to the Sweet 16 with an impressive 84-75 victory over 6th-seeded Illinois in the 2nd round on Sunday. The Wildcats came into that game as 2.5-point underdogs but defied the odds, securing the win outright. Meanwhile, Tennessee handled business in their 2nd round matchup against 7th-seeded UCLA, taking down the Bruins 67-58 on Saturday. The Volunteers, who entered that game as 5-point favorites, covered the spread with relative ease. Historically, Kentucky has dominated this series, holding a commanding 163-78 lead in head-to-head meetings. Adding to their confidence, the Wildcats have won the last 3 contests against the Vols, including a 75-64 victory at home on February 11th. The Southeastern Conference has been well represented in this year's tournament, with 7 teams making it to the Sweet 16. However, only 2 of them are facing off against each other in this round, making this an especially intriguing matchup. Kentucky and Tennessee are squaring off for the 3rd time this season, with the Wildcats winning both regular season meetings. Given how things have played out so far, the Volunteers would have likely preferred to avoid seeing their conference rival at this stage of the tournament. Kentucky edged out a 78-73 victory in Knoxville before securing a more comfortable 75-64 win at Rupp Arena. The key to those wins: defense. The Wildcats held Tennessee to a combined 4 for 6 shooting from beyond the arc in those 2 matchups, a dismal 23%. That's not an accident. Kentucky is ranked 24th in the country in 3-point defense, limiting opponents to just 30.6% from deep. Despite their 24-11 overall record, Kentucky is better than their win-loss column might suggest. Injuries played a role in some of their struggles earlier in the season, most notably the absence of Lamont Butler, a transfer from San Diego State, who missed 9 games. But Butler is rounding into form at the perfect time. After being a non-factor in the 1st round against Troy, he stepped up against Illinois, putting up 14 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds, and 3 steals in the Wildcats' win. Tennessee, on the other hand, has been more consistent throughout the season. They took down Wofford and UCLA in their first 2 tournament games, showing strong form on both ends of the floor. Still, Kentucky's dominance in the head-to-head matchup looms large. Can the Wildcats make it 3 straight against the Volunteers? That remains to be seen, but history suggests they have a real shot. Tennessee has built its success this season on defensive tenacity, and that could be the difference maker in this game. However, Kentucky counters with one of the most efficient offenses in the nation, and they've already figured out how to dismantle the Vols twice. Tennessee's struggles to generate offense in those previous matchups can't be ignored. Another interesting trend: the underdog has won outright in each of the last 7 meetings between these 2 teams, and in 8 of the last 10 matchups overall. You have to go all the way back to February 2022 to find the last time the favorite actually won. Beating the same team 3 times in one season is no easy feat, but both recent history and broader trends suggest that Kentucky, as the underdog, is the smart pick on Friday night. As our first pick for this matchup, the Kentucky Wildcats to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Both teams have put on strong defensive performances so far in the NCAA tournament, and that trend should continue in this Sweet 16 battle. At this point in the season, neither team is going to reinvent their offensive game plan or introduce many new wrinkles. Both squads know each other inside and out. Their last meeting resulted in a combined total of just 139 points, a clear sign of how much Tennessee's offense struggled against Kentucky's defensive scheme. On top of that, Tennessee plays at a deliberate pace, ranking 319th in the nation in possessions per game. Expect the Volunteers to slow things down even further, limiting Kentucky's transition opportunities and forcing the Wildcats to work deep into the shot clock. With both teams expected to grind it out defensively, scoring won't come easy. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Michigan versus Auburn. The 5th-seeded Michigan Wolverines are gearing up for a high-stakes battle against the top-seeded Auburn Tigers in the Sweet 16 round of the NCAA Tournament South Region. This matchup is set to take place in Atlanta, with both teams looking to extend their postseason journey. Michigan's path to this point has been anything but easy. In the first round, the Wolverines had to fight tooth and nail to escape with a narrow 3-point victory over 12-seed UC San Diego. That game saw Michigan struggle down the stretch as they nearly squandered a double-digit lead by scoring just 27 points in the second half. However, they survived and advanced to face 4-seed Texas Agricultural and Mechanical in the round of 32. That game was another roller coaster as the Wolverines found themselves trailing by 10 points early in the second half. Instead of folding, they responded with an explosive offensive surge, pouring in 46 points in the final 15 minutes while outscoring Texas Agricultural and Mechanical 30-16 over the last 10 minutes of play. Now, head coach Dusty May and his squad head to Atlanta for their toughest challenge yet, a showdown with the tournament's #1 overall seed, Auburn. While Michigan fans travel well and will certainly make their presence known at State Farm Arena, Auburn's campus is less than a 2-hour drive away, meaning the Tigers are likely to have the home court advantage in terms of crowd support. On the court, Michigan has often relied on its imposing size in the front court to dominate opponents, with 7-footers Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden controlling the paint. However, Auburn is one of the few teams in the tournament capable of matching that size and physicality down low. The Tigers boast 2 elite post defenders in Johnny Broome and Dylan Cardwell, both of whom rank among the top 50 players nationally in block rate according to Ken Palm's metrics. Auburn head coach Bruce Pearl also has another defensive weapon in Chaney Johnson, whose athleticism could prove useful in trying to neutralize Wolf's versatility. When looking at the broader matchup, Auburn holds the edge in 2 key areas: 3-point shooting and ball security. While Michigan has improved at protecting the ball in recent games, the Wolverines still rank a dismal 324th in turnover rate for the season. Their carelessness with the ball was on full display in the first round when they committed 14 turnovers against UC San Diego, nearly costing them the game. Additionally, Michigan has a limited number of reliable perimeter shooters, with only Nimri Burnett and former Auburn Tiger Tree Donaldson posing a consistent threat from deep. In contrast, Auburn is among the most disciplined teams in the country when it comes to ball control, giving it away on less than 14% of their possessions, ranking 5th nationally in that category. On top of that, the Tigers have 4 players who shoot at least 38% from 3 on 135 or more attempts this season. For Michigan to pull off the upset, they would need an uncharacteristically clean game with minimal turnovers, combined with an above-average shooting performance from beyond the arc. That's a tall order against an Auburn team that excels on both ends of the floor and has built strong chemistry over multiple seasons. At the end of the day, this feels like the end of the road for Michigan. They managed to survive against Texas Agricultural and Mechanical by playing the Aggies' style of basketball and executing down the stretch, but their turnover issues remain a glaring weakness. That's not the kind of problem you want to have when facing an Auburn squad that thrives on forcing mistakes and pushing the pace in transition. It's difficult to see the Wolverines keeping this game competitive for a full 40 minutes. As our first pick for this matchup, the Auburn Tigers to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. One thing that could dictate the tempo of this game is the presence of dominant big men on both sides. Nothing slows down a basketball game more than elite post players clogging the lane. And that's exactly what we have here. Auburn's Johnny Broome is a force in the paint who won't allow Michigan's bigs to get easy buckets inside. Meanwhile, Michigan's Twin Towers, Wolf and Golden, take up plenty of space and are more than capable of making life difficult for Auburn around the rim. Michigan played with a faster tempo for much of the regular season, but that was against Big Ten opponents who allowed them to dictate the pace. Auburn is a different beast. They have superior athleticism at multiple positions, and the Wolverines won't want to engage in a track meet with a team that can run them off the floor. Auburn naturally plays at a more controlled pace and has multiple scoring options, meaning they'll take their time to find the best shot on each possession. The Tigers have gone under the total in 3 of their last 4 games, and Michigan's first-round matchup against UC San Diego was a grinded-out affair that ended with both teams scoring in the 60 seconds. All signs point to another low-scoring battle here. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Purdue versus Houston. The NCAA tournament continues with a highly anticipated Sweet 16 matchup between the 4th-seeded Purdue Boilermakers and the top-seeded Houston Cougars in the Midwest region. This game will take place on Friday night in Indianapolis, where both teams are looking to make their mark. Purdue comes into this game after defeating 12th-seeded McNeese 76-62 in their second-round matchup. They comfortably covered the spread as 6.5-point favorites in that game. Meanwhile, Houston had a tougher battle against 8th-seeded Gonzaga, edging them 81-76 in their previous game on Saturday, managing to cover the line as 5-point favorites. As for the history between these two teams, Purdue holds a slight edge, winning 2 of their 3 previous matchups. The most recent encounter took place on January 10, 1998, when the Boilermakers defeated Houston in a dominant 86-53 home win. The Midwest region has largely followed the expected script so far, which sets up an exciting and intriguing contest between the Houston Cougars and the Purdue Boilermakers in the Sweet 16 this Friday. These teams have had very different journeys to get to this point. Purdue's path has been relatively smooth, as they knocked off double-digit seeds in High Point and McNeese State. On the other hand, Houston faced a much more difficult challenge, having to battle through a dramatically underseeded Gonzaga team in the round of 32. This has certainly given the Cougars a more challenging experience, and Gonzaga, according to predictive metrics, is considered a stronger team than Purdue. This assessment aligns with the rankings of statistical sites like Ken Palm, Bart Torvik, and Evan Mia, which only adds to the confidence in Houston's chances. Another factor in this matchup is the location. With the game being played at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, it can be considered a home game for Purdue, which is unusual for the lower-seeded team in a second weekend tournament game. However, despite this potential advantage for Purdue, I still believe that Houston's strength in defense, physicality, and their dominance on the glass will help them come out on top in this one. Purdue has shown their ability to break down their first couple of opponents in the tournament thanks to an excellent offensive game plan. Coach Matt Painter has always excelled in this area, and his Boilermakers have had little trouble taking care of business. However, they've been fortunate enough to face teams with defenses that allowed players like Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn plenty of space to get comfortable and make their shots. While Purdue's offense is impressive, they will face a much stiffer challenge against Houston, whose defense is widely regarded as the best in the nation across any metric. The Cougars are not the type of team to make things easy for their opponents. Not only will this be Purdue's toughest test yet, but they will also have a lot of difficulty on the defensive side of the ball. Purdue's defense has been problematic all season, particularly when it comes to defending the rim. According to Bart Torvik, they rank 341st in two-point defense, which does not bode well when facing a Houston team that just got a standout performance from Jaywan Roberts in the paint against a solid Gonzaga defense. Ultimately, I believe Houston will establish dominance early in the game, especially in the first 20 minutes, and pull away comfortably in the second half. As our first pick for this matchup, the Houston Cougars to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Purdue ranks 16th in the nation in field goal percentage, 12th in three-point shooting, 7th in offensive efficiency, 18th in effective field goal percentage at 56.1%, and 83rd in turnover percentage at 15.8% for the season. The Boilermakers play at a slow pace, ranking 299th in adjusted tempo with 65.1 possessions per game. Houston, on the other hand, is as suffocating a defensive unit as you'll find in college basketball. The Cougars rank first in the nation in scoring defense and defensive efficiency, and they also sit high in several other key defensive metrics. 4th in effective field goal percentage defense at 45%, 18th in forced turnover percentage at 21.5%, 5th in field goal percentage defense at 38.4%, 5th in two-point defense at 44.3%, and 27th in three-point defense at 30.6% for the season. Houston also plays a slow tempo, ranking 360th in the nation in possessions per game with 61.6. Purdue has made its way to the Sweet 16 fairly easily, and much of that success can be attributed to their defensive play. The Boilermakers have yet to give up more than 63 points in any of their tournament games, and their slow pace has helped limit offensive opportunities for their opponents. Purdue is ranked 306th in the nation in possessions per game, and they prefer to play a deliberate, slow game. However, they will face a tougher challenge in this game, as they go up against one of the best defensive teams in the country. Points will be difficult to come by for Purdue against Houston's tough defense. Houston has managed to play even slower than Purdue, ranking 357th in the nation in possessions per game. The Cougars have performed well offensively in the tournament, and I expect them to continue their strong offensive play in this matchup. Purdue will struggle to contain L.J. Cryer and the balanced Houston offense, which should have no trouble scoring. Both teams play at a slow pace, so the total number of possessions in this game will be limited. Given the strength of Houston's defense, I expect this game to fall short of the total. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.